I want to bring now Republican strategist Alice Stewart into the conversation, along with Evan Perez. Joan Biskupic and Ryan Goodman also are back with me. So, Evan, what is your takeaway now that you've had a few more minutes here to go through this? It is, as Kristen said, one can only imagine Trump's reaction to some of these lines, that his language was clearly intended to cause imminent violence. Again, if you were to take pages 93, 94, 95, 93 through 95, and that was your only ruling, it'd be the most damning thing that a court's issued about Trump yet.
That's right, Erin. And look, I mean, the fact that this case even got this far has been a surprise to everybody. Everybody thought that, like the courts in Michigan and Minnesota and New Hampshire, that these things would be thrown out simply because, we've never had something like this, right? We've never had a presidential candidate, leading presidential candidate, face disqualification because of this question of whether he engaged in insurrection. And so this was certainly a big test, and it was surprising that this judge not only wanted to hear this challenge, but also held multiple days hearings. And here, what she's doing is going on frankly, one of the thinnest pieces of technicalities to say that her hands are tied. And she really goes, I'll read you just a part of where she says near the end, in the final paragraphs there, where she says she says the court agrees that there are persuasive arguments on both sides. The court holds that the absence of the president from the list of positions to which the amendment applies, this is the 14th Amendment, combined with the fact that Section 3 specifies the qualifying oath to be one of support for the Constitution. And she points out that when you're president, you are swearing an oath to preserve, protect, and defend. So what she's saying is, because those words are slightly different from what others would swear when they take the oath, it doesn't apply to the President of the United States. And so that's the reason why she is ruling this way. And frankly, the things that Ryan and you have been talking about really does sort of show that she was leaning all the other way until this one technicality.
It's almost like, does the word Pyrrhic victory apply?
I think so, and I think that if I were Donald Trump and in his camp, they should still be worried. If they were worried about an adverse decision, the way this is set up on appeal is everything is locked into place for potentially disqualifying him, but for, as Evan described it, the technicality. That's a pure question of law that the appeals court, the Supreme Court of Colorado, could go the other way and say, no, that's way too narrow a reading. It must apply to all U.S. officials.
All right, Alice, Lucy Kafanov, who's there in Colorado in front of the court, she spoke to some voters earlier, just ahead of the decision, to get their reaction. And here's some of what they told her.
There has been a process for 200 years on how to do this, and this is not the way.
I feel like if you're in trial for anything, let alone felonies, you shouldn't be allowed on the ballot.
So, Alice, how does this play out with GOP voters? Especially, in the party primary where, when you read through this, you can obviously see not people like Chris Christie, of course, grabbing on to some of the substance of this ruling.
Look, Erin, there's no disputing the culpability of the former president with regard to what happened on January 6th, and it was uncalled for, unacceptable, and many say un-American. But in terms of this lawsuit, the courts repeatedly, this is the third time, almost the fourth time, the courts ruled that this is not the venue and the avenue and the legal way to go about having Donald Trump face the consequences for this. And politically speaking, there are many Republicans who are extremely frustrated with the fact that Donald Trump is the front runner. But that being said, his base and Republican primary voters that want him on the ballot legally have that right to do so. Now, I spoke before this ruling came down with the Colorado Republican Party chairman, Dave Williams, and he just replied back to me with his comments in response to this ruling. And Dave Williams says the court has wisely ruled in favor of President Trump. The fringe legal theory cannot be used to remove a qualified candidate from the ballot, let alone the front runner to the Republican Party. Said radical left-wing activists need to stop undermining free and fair elections and simply allow the voters to decide. Now, what this Colorado Republican chairman said is that it has always been unfair for a liberal judge from Denver to single-handedly stand in the way and remove someone from the ballot that is a threat to the front runner of the Democratic Party. And look, I truly believe there should be consequences for Donald Trump's actions with what he did, but Republican voters, at least in Colorado and certainly with the state party, feel that this was the appropriate ruling, and obviously they are ready and prepared to face the appeals that will no doubt come from the other side.
And Joan, a quick final word.
Sure, you know, it's ultimately to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, this is something that's never looked at before, but it's a very conservative Supreme Court with 3 Trump appointees, 6 conservatives out of the 9, and at this point it's hard to bet exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump remains on the ballot.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, and as we all keep reading this, I hope everyone at home will. But I can say at the very least here, and obviously we've been hosting this, so I haven't had a chance to read all of it as I've been speaking, but I have read 93 now through 102, and wow, there's a lot to think about in there, and I hope everyone will read it. All right, next.